then intermission, and then more acts. Just in case you didn't know what happens after intermission, more acts. So next we have Cedar Valley, Jody Osmond. Very cool. So remember how I said, I'm going to ask you two questions. I'm going to ask you a question, you're going to give me an answer to it. So I asked Jody over email. This wasn't a phone conversation, just in case you all wanted to know how it happened. And so I said, what two words got you or caused you to want to be a farmer? And he said, Ken Lay. Jody, why did you say Ken Lay? Enron. See? I didn't know that. That's why it's helpful to ask questions, because then you get the answers. And here comes Jody.
After last year, I told Julia I was not going to follow Rachel and Kim again. This year, I'm not following them. For the past 3 years, each of my acts have been about something I really loved. The first year was Tim Minchin. Last year was beef and 80s music, specifically Annie Lennox and Rhythmics. I'm the dad of 3 boys. The youngest who is starting to read on his own really a lot now. But the 2 youngest lately have been wanting to reread some of our old books. And one of our favorites has been the lyrics. So that's kind of the genesis of my act for this year. But I'm going to bring it down a little bit. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but one of the things I want to let you know is the Onceler is winning. This will be the Lorax and a brief history of the last 100 years of agriculture. I've been reading Howard Zinn in 1491, so you might get an idea of where my thoughts have been, but there's going to be some excerpts and then some of my thoughts. It all started way back, such a long, long time ago. Way back in the days when the grass was still green, and the pond was still wet, and the clouds were still clean, and the song of the Swami Swans rang out in space. One morning, I came to this glorious place, and I first saw the trees, the truffula trees, the bright colored tufts of the truffula trees, mile after mile in the fresh morning breeze. In 1900, there were 29 million people living on farms in the United States, with a total population of 76 million. It's about, give or take, 38% of the population. Farming then was pretty hard, backbreaking work. Lots of it was done by hand. And farms grew their own food, their own fuel, and often their own clothing. A lot of the CSA farmers can kind of relate to that backbreaking work because it still is. But to continue, but those trees, those truffula trees, all my life I've been searching for trees such as these. The touch of their tufts was much softer than silk, and they had this sweet smell of fresh butterfly milk. I felt a great leaping joy, of a joy in my heart. I knew just what I'd do. I unloaded my cart. In 1950, there were 25 million people living on farms out of 150 million, about 16%. And to give you an idea of what was going on in 1950, there were actually more pigs in the United States then than there are now. So, you probably know some of the stories, so I'm going to skip the whole making the needs. But we'll continue with once the need is made. The instant I finished and I heard a gazump, I looked. I saw something pop out of that stump of the tree I chopped down. It was a sort of a man. Describe him? That's hard. I don't know if I can. He was shortish and oldish and brownish and mossy. He spoke with a voice that was sharpish and bossy. After 1950, we had the Green Revolution. Norman Borlaug, who is loved and hated by a lot of people, brought the idea of petroleum-based fertilizers to the world. And we kind of know where that has led. And his Green Revolution was led by some leaders like the Rockefeller Foundation and the Ford Foundation. And they had a lot of post-World War II petroleum chemicals that they needed a market for. But the Lorax said, "Mister," he said with his sawdusty voice, "I am the Lorax, and I speak for the trees. Speak for the trees have no tongues. And I'm asking you, sir, at the top of my lungs." He was very upset, and he shouted and he puffed. "What's that thing you've made out of my truffula tuft?" The thing, of course. As you know, the Lorax didn't think anybody needed a thing, but the very next minute, I was proved wrong. For just that minute, a chap came along, and he thought that need I had knitted was great, and he happily bought it for $3.98. I laughed at the Lorax. "You poor, stupid guy. You never can tell what someone will buy." "I repeat," cried the Lorax, "I speak for the trees." "I'm busy," I told him. "Shut up, if you please." I rushed across the room, and in no time at all, I built a radio phone, and I put in a quick call. I called on my brothers, my uncles, and aunts, and I said, "Listen here, here's a wonderful chance for the whole Onceler family to get mighty rich. Get over here fast, take the road to North Nitch, turn left at Weehawken, a sharp right at South Stitch." In the 1960s, we saw Vietnam, the Cold War, DDT, and Agent Orange. Then, oh baby, but oh, how my business did grow. Now chopping one tree at a time was too slow. In 1970, we had the first Earth Day. We had 10 million farmers and 200 million people, less than 5% of the population. In 1971, the Lorax was published. In 1972, the Clean Water Act was adopted. A couple other things happened about that time. The Plant Variety Protection Act was passed through Congress, which basically allowed people to control seeds, private corporations. We know they're people too. And then also, kind of coinciding with that was the technology to do genetic engineering. In 1970, HFCS was introduced. You know what that is? High fructose corn syrup. In 1970, people consumed about 0 grams a day. Currently, 85 grams a day, which translates into nearly 400 calories. Give or take, people need about 1,200 calories to survive. So a quarter of their diet, on average, across the United States, comes from high fructose corn syrup. But the next week, he knocked on my door. He knocked on my new office door. He snapped, "I am the Lorax who speaks for the trees, which you seem to be chopping as fast as you please. But I'm also in charge of the brown barbaloots who played in the shade in their barbaloot suits and happily lived eating the truffula fruits. Now, thanks to your hacking my trees to the ground, there's not enough truffula fruit to go round, and my poor barbaloots are getting the crummies because they have gas and no food in their tummies. Lumping the pond where the humming fish hummed. No more can they hum, for their gills are all gummed. So I'm sending them off. Oh, their future is dreary. They'll walk on their fins and get woefully weary in search of some water. that isn't so smeary. Some other figures. Petroleum from fracking in 1980 was less than 1 billion barrels. In 2015, there's 12 billion barrels being produced. To produce that petroleum, it takes 72 trillion gallons of water, combined with 360 billion gallons of chemicals. 50 to 80% of that stays in the ground. And I have to do air quotes because renewable fuels were introduced in the 80s. In 1980, 175 million gallons were produced. In 2014, that figure was 14 billion gallons. Many of you are aware that the net energy gain from ethanol and biofuels is essentially nil. And then I got mad. I got terribly mad. I yelled at the Lorax. Now listen here, Dad. All you do is yap, yap, and say, bad, 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 bad. Well, I have my rights, sir, and I'm telling you, I intend to go on doing just what I do. And for your information, you Lorax, I'm figuring on biggering and biggering and biggering and biggering some more, turning more truffle trees into thnees, which everyone needs. And at that very moment, we heard a loud whack. From the outside in the fields came a sickening smack of an axe on a tree. And we heard the tree fall. The very last truffle tree of them all. But now, says the Onceler, you're here. The word of the Lorax seems perfectly clear. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. So, catch, says the Onceler. He lets something fall. It's a truffle seed. It's the last one of all. You're in charge of the last of the truffle seeds. And truffle trees are what everyone needs. Plant in the truffle. Treat it with care. Give it clean water and feed it fresh air. Grow a forest. Protect it from axes that hack. Then the Lorax and all of his friends yank him back. And my question to you, are we going to let the Onceler win? The band of farmers speaks for the farmers. And all of you can help them out. We have a new organization. It's called the Band of Farmers. You might have seen a table out there with some information on this sort of thing. Supporting members, you don't have to be a farmer to support the Band of Farmers. For $45 a year, you can help us grow more farmers. Farmers here, CSA farmers who haven't joined, the joining fee is $35 to $95 per year to join. And it depends on the size of your CSA. It's graduated for larger CSAs. And all of you here can help. Buy a CSA share. There's a lot of farms here. They'll probably sign you up tonight. What else can you do? Host a drop-off site. On the Band of Farmers, there's a place that has information. If you want to, what can you do to host a drop-off site? Tell your friends. Everybody has friends. If you're a CSA share member and you like it, let everybody know about it. Tell your boss, your HR department. How cool would it be if the farm brought your food right to work so you didn't have to go anywhere for it at the end of the day? If you go to church, tell them. Are you a writer? Do you blog? Are you political? Get political. all this has happened because people have let it happen. Don't let the nice one here. Don't.